Good morning. So I think we can start. Good morning, all, and welcome to the Wasteless Monthly Café Talk. We have prepared for you today a café, which will be served by Maarten van der Kamp, the IIT Foods Director of Education. Thank you very much, Maarten, for accepting our invitation. Then we will have the time to talk. So the testing notes, you can ask your question or make your comments or share your opinion with us. And at the end, of course, we'll ask for our tip. We will ask you to answer 2 fast questions about the presentation and the monthly Café Talks in general. And we will close with the next month's specialty. And with this, I stop talking and I give the word to Maarten. Please, Maarten.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. And I am your special barista. I love the concept, by the way. I think it's absolutely brilliant. When we were talking about this, this was really about sort of the question came, can you say something about education and food waste and loss? And so I sort of suggested that we actually talk a little bit more about skills, because that's basically in the end everything that we're working for, and that's the purpose of education. So let's talk a little bit more about the skills that are happening. Now, I should be able to share my screen. Now, so what I've got prepared for you is not necessarily an entirely integral kind of integrated story, but just a couple of different ingredients, as in, let's keep on with the with the coffee metaphor. We're going to be making a little bit of a blend of different insights to see if we can make sense of those skills on this one. So the first ingredient is actually, well, what's the state of skills in agri-food? I mean, you all know this. The competitiveness compass and the Draghi Heitor and Letta report, they all are positioning skills are absolutely crucial for innovation. But I think in agri-food, we know that industry is very much commenting on the lack of green and particularly digital skills. But we also know that some training systems and education systems are actually not quite up to scratch with where the new technology is, etc. And then how do we deal with brain drain from different parts of the country? So we need to have skills intelligence, and we've got loads of skills intelligence, but it's not necessarily actionable. So the first question is, how do we make that skills intelligence actionable so that we get a focus on sort of the food system and the needs that are there? And of course, if we talk particularly about food waste and loss, where is it occurring and what can we do about it in some sort of and be creative with finding new solutions. So the second bit there is to figure out kind of what are the mega trends that we've got. So we see major shifts in skills platforms or skills requirements, but we also see, for example, in agriculture, very much an aging workforce. So we need to do something with that. We know what are the skills gaps. I'll say a little bit more about the skills gaps in a bit, but those are the kind of the elements that we need to sort of keep in mind. In terms of employment, so because 99% of businesses in the food system are SMEs, getting innovation into them is actually quite a challenge. And so we know that there's a massive amount of reskilling that is required over the next 5, 10, and 15 years. And so we know that skills profiles are changing, but we don't necessarily see that changing in job profiles as yet. So jobs are shifting, but it's not reflected in the language. So that's, I think, also something to keep in mind with sort of thinking about these stats, is kind of how do we update the expectations that are on particular job roles that are there and the skills that we expect them to fill with that. For us, this is basically our heat map. So where we've been looking as EAT Food Education, as in where are people skilled. So this is in millions of people working across the EU 27 and Europe. Kind of where are we actually already looking at food system transformation and kind of the key skills, and where are we not yet looking at this? And I think when I was just talking to Luminita and Sophia before we started on this one, it's clear that action needs to happen across the entire value chain. And the Wasteless project has been looking at different stages in the value chain. But for this, yeah, for me, I think this is a key map to keep in mind of, okay, where do we actually need to have a handle on the skills, and where can we find the innovators that are actually going to make the difference. And for us, this was also a piece of reflection. As EAT Food, we were very good in, we are good in primary production and manufacturing. But when we think about, and a bit in retail, but actually when we think about food and drink services, well, that's where we are not as well developed as we would like. So it also gives us a bit of a map of where can we push the envelope a little bit further. So for us as EAT Food, the key skills are sort of reflected in our competency framework. So these are the 8 competencies that we've said that, okay, if we want to drive innovation and to solve particular challenges, sustainability challenges in the food system, then our competency framework is where this all comes together. So in green, they are the more technical capabilities. And food systems knowledge is absolutely key. And I think when we talk about food waste and loss, food systems sort of skills are also absolutely essential, because the food waste and loss can be generated in one area of the food system, but actually the application or the valorization of maybe side streams, etc., might be in a completely different part of the food system. So actually having that food systems perspective is absolutely essential to have. Then, of course, there's always new ways of working with data, but of course, AI has been coming in and has been already starting to transform the sector quite significantly. So, understanding what is new in data management, but also what is happening in terms of emerging technologies. And some of that might be completely new technologies. Some of it might be much more about, say, for example, fermentation as a way to transform waste in some way. So, those technical skills are really key, but they need to be combined with what we call underpinning capabilities. We don't like this term soft skills, because that would imply that in some way that they are kind of optional, or that they are not as serious as the hard technical skills. For us, they're absolutely the key to making things happen. So entrepreneurship is, of course, very important, not necessarily for venture creation, but for people to act entrepreneurially in the setting that they find themselves. So that might be in industry, it might be in policy, but to really drive that change. Problem solving and critical thinking are not a given in sectors that are still fairly traditional, and so those are elements that we still need to focus on. And leadership and communication is, of course, well, when you are working on innovation, how do you get people along with you, and how do you actually tell the story in the outside world? So those are the competencies that we've been focusing on, and we've been looking at those in 4 different levels. So the starting level is really about understanding core concepts. The second level is becoming a confident practitioner in those skills. The third level is really about mastery, is about becoming very strategic in those elements. And the final layer is about thought leadership and mentoring, and basically working by sort of making a difference by working through and with others on this one. And so that means that actually you can really start to map out where individuals are, but also training courses, what skills are they teaching, and we can even assess people in sort of in with a certification scheme where they are, so that those skills are becoming more articulated and are becoming transferable, and sort of you can sort of take them with you when you cross borders, when you go into new jobs, etc. But this also then gives employers a language to start talking more about those skills that are being required for particular roles on this one. Earlier this year, we did a sort of a bit of a survey on kind of what skills are we seeing among the alumni that have gone through our programs, and this was actually the map that was coming out of this. So we've got our own map, but then if we look at the people who've gone through our programs, they are talking on their LinkedIn profiles about other skills as well. And so here we see some of these skills coming back, but we see some more skills kind of being displayed there as well. And so part of it is much more refined about biotechnology or an agri-food tech in this, but we also see more technical and managerial skills in this. And again, those underpinning skills are actually very, very prominent in what we're seeing. And so here we're looking then at a hybrid skill profile that is emerging from these innovators that are really driving change in the sector. And so we really need to harness and kind of foster those hybrid skills profiles for this. And that then also connects again with EU priorities. So that's good to know. But then we also were able to do an investigation in terms of the startups that came from our programs and to actually look at where are they sitting. And actually, you will see across the entire value chain, waste valorization is happening in a number of different places. And therefore, it's also a really interesting skills profile to think about is these people that really can deal with waste streams and valorization, where they might end up finding jobs in the sectors as well. And so for me, I think that's an interesting and encouraging kind of element as well, that the more that we've got this prominent about the food system, the more that waste and side streams are being made visible, and the more that means that we have a scope for innovation on this one. So two little examples from our kind of alumni. On the left, we've got Orbem, a company that sort of the idea was started in 2018. One of the founders went through our Global Food Venture Program, our doctoral school, and with his co-founders then set up an AI-powered business to do in ovo sexing of eggs. And so they use novel imaging techniques to actually avoid side streams and the side stream from occurring in the first place, and to actually be sort of before sort of chicks are hatching, to be able to do something with the eggs already. So for me, that's a really interesting thing where you are combining high tech, and they're using magnetic resonance imaging. So a big kind of tool from the healthcare tech that is being used to create a really innovative way on working with preventing food waste in the process. The other example is Holy Roots. They were students in one of our food solutions programs and started on looking at, well, what are waste streams that are coming from industrial processes, and what can we do with those waste streams? And so they created crackers from a number of different waste streams. And now they've got 6 different products, and amazingly, they were exhibiting at Anuga this year. So actually, from just a small idea for as a student to have a bit of a career builder, actually built out a startup that is really working with food waste as well. And so for me, they really reflect a very interesting spectrum as a whole of where can you find sort of innovative ways to think about food waste and loss, and how you can actually address them. So, in conclusion, we've got a little tool where people can come in and take a skills assessment and just do a self-assessment of where do I sort of sit on that competency map. So we very much would encourage you to take that tool and help us improve that tool. So at the moment we are in beta testing the tool, and the more that we can get users to actually go through it, the more that we've got a possibility to test and refine the model. Then my call to action would really be about it's very necessary to invest in skills. So which skills are we talking about for food waste and loss? I said the food system skills, the entrepreneurship skills, and further underpinning skills. And then the final thing is more about learning from failed experiments. So learning from a success story is nice and so on, but actually learning from failed experiments are much more interesting because that is where you can actually have a seed for further innovations going forward. So with that, I would like to then sort of stop it here. Happy to take any questions, but I hope that this was kind of giving you a little bit of a caffeine kick for the Friday afternoon.
Good. Yeah, this was very nice. Thank you very much, Maarten. So now it's indeed the time for questions. So if you want to ask a question to Maarten or just share some insights on this, you can just raise your hand and I invite you. Yeah, Julian, please.
Yeah, thank you, Maarten, for this very interesting data and presentation. I just wonder about the slide with the skills map, how much this reflects with the Pact for Skills, Agri-Food Pact for Skills skills map and the things we're developing in Iristat and fields and Agri-Food Skills in the Erasmus Blueprint project.
Yeah. Excellent question, and that's going to be the next stage. So the data that I showed is really fresh from what we've just generated. So I think you're the first audience, public audience that I'm showing this to. So you've got sort of the premiere here. This is what is basically what we've been seeing through so the alumni coming through our programs and then following them and seeing what skills that they have. The next bit is indeed to bring them into the conversations in iRestart and agri-food skills and to actually see, well, what can we do with this data in that context? And what does this mean? And does this mean that actually the kind of we are on track with our strategy, or are there still skills that are missing? And also, of course, this is one where we've had a kind of our alumni are in a way self-selecting. So the data here is biased by kind of the people that have come through our programs that have sought us out. So I think on that front, there's also a point of, okay, we've got this then maybe as reference data, but then how do we open this up and how do we make this more available towards the rest of sort of and how do we push this more if we agree that this is the profile that we need to have. But I think, yeah, that's going to be the next stage in the development. But thanks for that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Kohei, you want to ask something?
Yeah, thank you. You gave me a kind of new perspective on food waste, and yeah, it's a rather general question, but you mentioned that learning from failed cases is useful, and I agree with that. But in many cases, people who are involved in the failed experiments are not so, they are reluctant to disclose fully information on such failure. So how can you gather information from failed cases?
Yeah, it's a very good one. I think the starting point for this is there needs to be well, probably my main mechanism is humor, because you need to have a certain amount of humor to be able to put what you've learned into perspective on this. But I think there's also a point here about curiosity and a curiosity to learn, not to assign a portion blame or anything, but it is more about actually a curiosity of, hey, what does this mean, and how can we actually make sense of this, and how can we sort of riff of this to actually do something that is better as a consequence. And so I think it's not kind of it's not. I think in that sense the framing of the kind of and the convening of such a moment of actually to say that, hey, we want to learn from failure needs to be in that sense an open invitation, and there needs to be a safe space where people can actually talk about what it is that they've learned out of this. And I think that's the key ingredient to do it. I think but I think, and this is a part of, for example, funding frameworks or kind of the metrics that we're being held against by funding agencies and our own organizations, etc. I think discourage that, because we're always, of course, talking about the good news stories and kind of the things that we did achieve. And so I think on that front, it is also an act of probably of courage to actually say that, hey, here there still is something interesting to report, even though it didn't yield the right results. And so I think, yeah, for sort of in more informal settings, it's about how do you create that safe space to make sure actually that conversation can happen. But I think on a more formal side, there is this courage about to report also stuff that didn't work, so that that also gets documented. So yeah, I would say those would be for me the main ingredients there.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We still have some time for one or two questions if you want to ask, or maybe I can ask one, Maarten, related to AI, because we are now in this era, and I'm looking more to from the perspective of training developers, like the case of ISEKI also. Because now if you have I don't know, a license of some kind of AI tool, you can develop a training from scratch. How do you see the role of AI in training development in the future?
Yeah, really interesting. I think there probably a couple of different sort of elements to that answer. So let me go through kind of the two or three things that are in my mind now, and there might be another element that comes up. But I think the first one is, and that was a really cool project that I came across last year. It's a training for medical GP practitioners in training to engage patients around the topic of food and kind of how they might need to address their food patterns. And they developed particular scripts that students needed to put into an AI engine, and the AI engine, so the script included what kind of patient the AI engine needed to be to act as in the subsequent sort of Q&A that was happening. So the AI was sort of preset to have particular behaviors, etc. So it might be a reticent kind of 60-year-old industrial worker that is very hesitant in giving any details about his food patterns. And so you put that in, and suddenly the AI starts to behave in that way. Whereas another profile was a health conscious mother that had been looking at stuff on internet, etc. And so that was a fascinating use as an AI becoming an aid in the training element. So for me, that's was something that I got really excited about. I think when we see kind of AI tools more in the hands of course developers, I think it is a way of synthesizing a lot of knowledge. I think, though, that for me, the challenge there is that how do you keep this up to date? How do you, and so for me, this is more about teaching. And for me, what's more interesting is teaching students and learners the skills on how to deal with AI, how to deal with looking for information, rather than sort of using it to create an up-to-date version of the course, because I think that is more difficult. So it kind of the focus on skills, I think, is a key one to make sure actually that AI fits in. And then a third use that for me is, so I also, out of my role, I'm also the president of Ecotrophilia Europe, and one of the national competitions actually already developed a policy on how the students would use AI in the competition using AI. And what was really interesting was that they basically asked AI the question of what would be the guidance if this is the case. But then they also were open and transparent about which prompt that they had used to generate those kind of rules. And for me, that was really clear. So I think as long as there is that openness and transparency of what prompt did I use to generate this particular kind of content, then I think that can also be a really useful way to help with the skills that we collectively need in order to understand and grasp AI, but also to work with it in actual settings. And in that sense, education is not something that sits outside or sits in an ivory tower or something like that. And I think this is the moment where actually you can make that intersection and you can actually say that, hey, AI gives us particular affordances, and particularly if we're open and transparent about it, then at that moment it becomes clear in what are interesting ways of using it.
Good. Yeah, interesting. This is very interesting insights. Thank you very much. So now I think we need to go to the Slido. Sophia, thank you very much, Maarten.
very
Sophia,
welcome.
now it's your turn. So please take your phone.
To our bill and tip, please. It's small, just to help on our project report. If I can move the slide. Okay. So scan the QR code, please, or go to slido.com and insert 2668434. I will move the slide. The first tip I would
The
like
code
to
is
ask
still
it.
there. Yeah, the
Yeah.
code is still there if people were not fast enough.
Exactly, at the left side. Please describe in a word your take-home message from this talk. Okay, 8. Okay, I will wait a bit more. Okay, 8 participants. Very nice. Thank you very much. And the last is how do you rate Monthly Cafe Talks second edition so far? I'm missing 2 participants here. Did they left, Lubinita?
No, here they are.
Okay. Thank you very much for engaging in for giving our tip.
Yeah, and now very fast, because we have only 2 minutes left, I would like to announce the next Cafe Talks. We have only 2 editions left, so we will end by the end of December. But we have beginning of December on the 5th, a presentation from Mara Petruzzelli from Agroscope, a Wasteless partner, about can changing the meal sequence in school canteens reduce vegetable food waste. And then we will have our Christmas special at the end on December 19 before the vacation, a presentation given by Giulia Casa from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Budapest about household food waste indicator and measurements now and in the future. So please join us to the next monthly Cafe Talks. Follow Wasteless to register. And thank you very much for attending this Cafe Talk. Wishing you